How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Welcome to episode 301. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? Looking forward to this great podcast recording with you. What's happening?
I'm in a bad mood, so let's just do this damn thing. Let's go.
You're in a foul mood, huh?
Yeah, I'm fucking pissed. So let's just go ahead and get right into this.
It seems like everything's getting worse, too, huh?
Just shit sucks, man. So Miggy's on a fucking rampage. Kenny Holland's gone. See you later. And the fucking Derby. You want to talk about that? Let's talk about that.
Make any bets on it?
No. Fuck no. Get the hell out of here. I don't watch horse racing. I don't even give a shit about horse racing. The fact that this even made our goddamn rundown, that says what the hell happened was crazy.
And you put hashtag quick because you want to probably blow through this topic.
I don't care about horse racing. I mean, people who do, cool, good for you. Fucking watch some ponies run around and do some laps. All right, awesome. Good job. Let's make a podcast out of that. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's news, it's topical, and right now we are kind of hitting the dry season where we're approaching it. I mean, good God, I don't know what we're going to do come July, August, when we've got the dreadful Tigers. Do you realize we are, I don't know, we're 50-some games in the season? Are we 40-some? I don't even know where we're at. But we're into the baseball season. Do you know how many times we've talked baseball on this podcast?
Twice, maybe?
Maybe, and I think one of those was opening day. So that lets you know what's going on with the Tigers right now.
Well, to be honest and fair, we do have an exclusive Tigers podcast.
We do. Yeah, to be honest and fair, we do, and it's great. Vito does a phenomenal job. Vito's great. You guys, listen to that. It drops every single Wednesday. But, I mean, what's going on? I mean, it's the Tigers. We're going to talk about Miguel Cabrera's comments. We're not going to talk about the action on the field. We're going to talk about the comments that he made in regards to his play on the field. That's what we're going to discuss later on in this podcast.
But I do want to ask you this. You don't get invited to no derby parties, throw back some whiskey, put on a suit, have Lorraine put on one of those beautiful hats just to, change it up a little bit. I've never been invited to one. I've never been to Northville Downs, but there is a prominent horse racing community around here, and people do bet. And
Hazel Park, there used to be a racetrack, and it used to be packed. My dad used to go all the time.
I never went to it.
Because he's a degenerate. But yeah, I mean, used to be. How into horse racing are you?
No, just this season. Around this time, April and May and June, around the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching for a Triple Crown is what you're watching.
That's it.
That's all you care about. Like, honestly, with what happened this past weekend, and then kind of projecting forward what's going to happen going into the Belmont, and I don't know the other race that happens after, I forgot.
The Preakness.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All that stuff, right? So you now have a horse that won that was disqualified. He's not racing. You have the horse that won. He's not racing. So what is your interest level for this upcoming race? I think it's this weekend, right? I don't even know what weekend it is. I mean, good job on me for show prepping for this. But honestly, what is your level of interest? There is no interest. Do you know why? Because there's no chance for a Triple Crown. There's no chance for it. Which leads me back to what took place at the Kentucky Derby. Did the stewards get the call right on Saturday? And I think if you watch the video and you see what happens, yes, they got the call right. Because with what the hell's the name of the horse?
Maximum Security.
There you go. Thank you. I was going to say Heavy Machinery. That's wrestling. You guys should tune into that podcast. It drops every Friday. So with Maximum Security, kind of leaning into the lane and forcing the other horses to kind of pull up. And it wasn't the horse that was directly behind him. It was a chain reaction. It was like 2 or 3 horses behind him. And then it was another 2 or 3 horses behind that really had to pull up. So yes, they got the call right. The issue that I had with what took place over the course of the weekend was the way the stewards handled it. All right. So you tie everything up for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, everybody's sitting on pins and needles, wondering if they have a winning ticket or not. People probably were upset immediately and went to go rip up their winning tickets because, I don't know, who bets on a long shot? Somebody does, and that pays off because I think it was like a 65-1 payout on it. All that being said, right? They tie you up for 20 minutes, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. The TV broadcast goes. TV broadcast has to go to NHL hockey because, obviously, it's more important, right? Obviously, it's hockey, not horse racing. Then the stewards come, they make their decision, but they don't give you an answer as to why they made their decision. They just say, yeah, this is what's going on. He's disqualified. This horse wins. Let's move on with our day. Wait, hold up. $165 million was wagered on this one race. $165 million. That's a lot of cash. And for people who have to make a decision that impacts that $165 million to just be like, yeah, no, he lost, he won, let's go on about our day. That's effed up, man. That's effed up. That's not cool. You need to give an explanation as to why you're making this decision. You have to explain in detail what is going on because this impacts so many people. And it doesn't just impact those people, it impacts their wallet, their bottom line. It impacts their dollar. You know, the one thing that you don't ever mess with is a man and his money. You just don't do it. Maybe his family. You know, depending on who he is, you could probably screw around with his family a little bit before you mess with his money. I'm just saying, all right? I don't know everybody out there. I just know a couple guys. And I know a couple cats who don't like their money messed with. And now you just screwed with these people's money. That's messed up. And you don't give an explanation. This is the one thing I think the NFL has learned and has gotten better at doing, especially with certain officials. When they go back and they look at the replay and they make a call, they'll come back and they'll explain in detail what took place and why they're either A, changing it or why the initial call stands. And I think in this case, in this instance, horse racing got the call right, but I think the way they executed the call was completely mishandled and was wrong. That's a lot of money on the line, and for you to not really get an explanation as to what took place, I think it was 22 minutes later, I think that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, it's when you look at the scenario in which this all played out, you had the second place horse actually filing the objection that caused all of this, and yeah, obviously the gambling aspect plays a huge part in it. But hey,
it's a whole sport that is built and centered around gambling. It's not like it's part of it. You can bet on football games. It's a part of it. No. Horse racing is built around gambling. Like, it is one of the pillars that community is situated on, is gambling.
So are you saying that because those that know horse racing, those that are the sport of kings aficionados, they'll say this happens all the time, but in the biggest race in front of the biggest audience, this doesn't usually happen.
Right.
So would you say, okay, because obviously
it's never happened where the first place horse has been disqualified.
Exactly. But if you just harken back to the football season, the Saints got screwed.
Yes.
And everybody said, look, if pass interference could be replayed, if we could replay key scenarios maybe at certain times, then the call would have been maybe potentially in the Saints' favor. So if you look at it from that perspective, you can't then turn around and say, oh, I'm upset that they did this. I'm okay with it. But the bigger question that it leads to, and the more important topic is replay something that now we need to revisit and say, you know what, human error, or sometimes we just have to let things stand and allow for maybe not the proper thing to happen. Because, you know what, maximum security blew everybody away. But there is a rule that says, hey, you got to stay in your lane. You can't veer off and block anybody. That's a rule. And horse aficionados will say that this call is made quickly and swiftly in a bunch of other races all the time. So with that said, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the ruling being correct. Now, the topic that you can open up and discuss is maybe the human element can be reintroduced and say, you know what, maybe we don't need robots calling balls and strikes in baseball. Maybe we don't need every single play to be looked at and gotten correct, because what adds to the flair of the almost perfect game? The fact that Jim Joyce screwed the Tigers. If there had been replay, it would have been a perfect game. Everything would have been perfect. But now, in the history of baseball, there is this one perfect game that didn't happen. And Jim Joyce was the reason. Now, as a Tigers fan and as a fan of Detroit sports, I wish it would have been a perfect game because we all got invested and things like that. But there's the human element. There's something that goes on. You can actually, probably in the next 5-10 years, when we get to episode 400, 500, we could get to the point where every single play, every single ball, every single piece of equipment that's used in sports can have a chip in it, and every single thing can be absolutely flawless, where, hey, If it's a foul, it's going to be called. If there's contact, maybe the jersey's going to light up. Everything can be, technology can be influenced in every single sport in every single way. Do we want that? There has to be a fine line of getting it right and at the same time not letting technology ruin some of the nuance and the ambiance of sports where, hey, sometimes an ump is going to call a strikeout and it was well outside of that, that box that everyone gets to see. So for me, I'm kind of right there in the middle where maybe late, maybe a little bit of technology should be allowed, but you know what? Sometimes, the human element, the opportunity for human error also adds to sports. So maybe I would say then technology should be allowed for maybe the first 3/4 of a contest, and then at the end, hey, whatever happens, happens. In baseball, they can call balls and strikes or they can utilize it, but in the playoffs, can't. Go back to the officials. In the regular season, no problem. Playoffs, umpires make the calls.
See, you can't do that.
That'd be awesome.
No, you can't do that because you lean on something for 75% of a game to just turn around in the key moments, in the waning moments when everything's on the line.
The human gets to make the call.
Cool. No. Now, this is the one thing I do like about what took place, okay? They got the call right, fine and dandy, all right? But I like the fact that they went to instant replay. They went to the videotape. I think instant replay is great. We talked about it. You brought up the Saints game that just took place and how the Saints got screwed. The National Football League this season is instituting a new rule where instant replay is going to be on almost every penalty. You can throw a challenge flag. For pass interference, you can throw a challenge flag now. Think about that. Now, the one thing I don't like about instant replay is it makes things very chaotic. It makes things very hectic, and it ties up a game. And you can, for pass interference alone, you can throw a flag almost every time to challenge it. You really could. So my issue and my concern is, how long is it going to really tie things up in an actual game, right? Not so much horse racing. Horse racing is the impetus for this conversation, but not so much for horse racing, but for other sports, for football, for basketball, for baseball, for hockey even, right? And I think hockey does it right. I think hockey does a great job because they're swift. It's very quick. If there is a goal that is scored and they're not really sure, play continues, right? And what'll happen is they'll go back, they'll rewatch it, and then they will dial the time back to the moment that the goal was scored that's in question. Or if they're not sure if a goal was actually in, they go to Toronto very quickly, and within 2 to 5 minutes, you have an answer on whether it's a goal or it's not a goal, and the referees do a very good job of letting you know what's happening and why it took place. I think with football specifically, they have to they have to somehow set a time limit. Because, again, you can challenge almost every pass play. Every pass play could be called for pass interference, whether it be offensive or defense. But you can't spend the entire game trying to make it decipher a call, trying to make this decision. You've got to set up some type of boundary. Okay, cool. We're going to spend 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And if you can't decide within that time frame, the call stands. Whatever the call or the non-call on the field is, you've got to move on. But I think more instant replay is good for sports. It's good to get the call right. And I understand what you're saying about the human error, right? It makes total sense. But isn't it better to get the call right than to necessarily have something that took place where you're like, man, how did that take place? Like, if just the Saints game alone that took place this season, that game alone, if you get that call right, then changes everything. I think that Super Bowl is totally different.
So you're saying we should have replay, but hurry the hell up with it.
Right. You have to have some type of limitation on it. You were on your couch watching the Saints game, and I hate to keep going back to that one specific game, but it's top of everybody's mind.
Yeah, of course.
You go back to that Saints game, and you're sitting on your couch, and you're like, how is that not a call? How is that not a flag? What's going on there? How do you miss that? How do you blow that? Now, you have instant replay. You challenge that. You see it's a blown call. Saints end up going in and scoring. The entire outcome of that series is different, or of that playoff game is different, which then sets up a totally different Super Bowl matchup, which is interesting. I thought we had a very good Super Bowl, a little bit boring because not a lot of scoring, but I think it's totally different. I think everything is different. It changes everything, which I think is awesome. I just think the chaos comes in when you spend 5 or 6, 12, 18 minutes trying to figure out a play. And you can't have that. That can't be allowed. I think going forward, you have to have people almost like what hockey does, where you've got somebody removed from the situation making the call, making the decision, and radioing down, saying, hey, guys, look, this is what the deal is. You only have so many minutes to get this in, so here's where we're going to go with this. That's what you have to do. And I think that's one of the things that was really interesting about what the AAF tried to do. They put a video camera in the booth, and they were mic'd up. You could hear them discussing what was going on. But I think more video replay, more instant replay, I think is needed. Get the calls right. You have the technology. Why the hell not get the calls right?
As a result of what happened, do you think the Kentucky Derby has lost some of its luster as a result of the 20-minute delay, people getting all excited for it, the Sport of Kings, it's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It opens up the season, basically. It's like your season opener. Everyone's watching. You at least know some of the horses. You do get some more features. Did it ruin it for you? Because I just think that, you know what, those people that are hardcore are going to remain hardcore because you can still go and bet the dollar, and more gambling opportunities are going to take place in the future. So more people, more young people will get into it with the opportunity to gamble, especially with states like Michigan getting into gambling, hopefully, in the coming years. So I don't think it ruined it. I think it's a good talking point. I think that for those that are invested in horse racing, it's probably one of those irritants that's like, well, this Kentucky Derby was marred by controversy, but it might enhance the sport later on by streamlining replay, by having stricter limits, and maybe even having the discussion of, well, to some degree, if there's reasons why a horse goes offline, then maybe potentially you don't take it away from him. But all in all, I'm okay with it. I'm still going to watch and pay attention to the other two races. I'm still interested because I'm a sports fan, but I just don't think that the impact of all this controversy is going to be all that big a deal, because maybe one day you and I will go down there, put on our suits, and drink some mint juleps, and maybe stumble over the gate and be like, who are these idiots on the field?
Stumble over the gate.
We're like, oh, shoot, John and Adam drank way too much whiskey. And
After podcast 300, I think, whew.
You know what? Oh, my God, the horse is kicking these podcasters. What the hell's going on? Get these guys up.
By the way, I want to apologize to everybody for
that was
last
awesome.
week, because
It was awesome.
I was a hot mess, man.
The show was awesome. It sounded good. You were on
Did
point.
It? I like how Putty's message in the Flick app was I'm not sure if Adam's really drunk or if he's just laser focused.
Yeah, we tried.
I was really drunk.
We did an interview, and it was great. We had fun with it. You have to every once in a while mix it up. I mean, we have the right to do it, so we said we were going to do it. I mean, it's 300.
Yeah,
we had to let loose a little
time.
bit. But could you imagine if we tried to streak during the Kentucky Derby?
Oh my God, that'd be great.
What is it now? What was it, the 125th
Nobody be able
run?
to see my little wiener. They're like, what is that? Is that an Audi belly button? That's my little wiener. Don't worry about it.
And there's this Polish guy running down, and he's naked.
He's all balls. There's no dick.
It's swinging wildly. Or we just
No, it would not be swinging wildly. It just kind of stays perched up on my nutsack.
All right, you know what? We find one of our fellas there from a friend of ours that maybe is well endowed, and just say, look, here's $5,000.
Sure as hell ain't me.
Let it go swinging wildly. And
but if you look down at your thumb right now, just kind of look at the nail and tuck your index finger right behind the nail. That's what I'm working with. It's a little guy.
No viewers, we are not blurring. It's just that we just can't see it.
Yeah, you can't see it. That's why do you think I keep my pubes trimmed? Come on now.
Now I do want to talk about this for a moment.
Bigger.
Rod Wood addressed a fan at a luncheon in Grand Rapids, and I'm finally really happy that the Lions are addressing their lack of a winning culture. And this fan, so set the scene, Rod Wood was talking with Lomas Brown and Dan Miller, and obviously there are fans that pay money and they get to go to these luncheons and have these special events. Mm-hmm. Well, one fan, a 58-year-old, just basically put it right to Rod Wood, and the answer was really newsworthy. I want to play this for you, and I want to talk about the fact that maybe, potentially, Martha Ford is a hard ass? Really?
I'm 58. I've been a fan since I was 8 years old, so that's 50 years of pain. I'm just trying to understand why is it so hard to instill a winning culture in Detroit?
We're the same age, so I can feel your pain. I think it's a great question, and I think a lot of it is the people at the top running the organization, myself included, setting the right tone, starting with ownership. And I think Mrs. Ford is a very different owner than her husband, and has a lot less patience and a lot less tolerance for mediocrity, which is why we've made some of the changes that we've made. And certainly when I was hired and we had the opening for a general manager, I wanted to go to an organization and hire somebody who was used to winning and had come from an organization that doesn't know anything other than winning. That's why we landed on Bob Quinn. And then after we decided to make a change with the head coach, we kind of went back and looked for the same kind of opportunity to add a coach who doesn't expect anything less than competing for the Super Bowl every year.
Audio courtesy of Fox17online.com. fascinating insight into what Rod Wood said and regarding Martha Ford. But is it lip service? Because the talk online, once it kind of circulated, once people started to read the articles, the talk online was, bro, this is just lip service. This isn't real. The organization doesn't care. The organization cashes checks, and they're not serious. They know what the narrative should be, and they just throw it out there so that when people talk about the Lions, they can say, oh, Martha Ford is serious. She doesn't got patience. But when you look at some of the actions that the Lions take, do you keep a quarterback for 10 years and then pay him a boatload of money if you're serious about winning? Because your quarterback, the guy that everyone considers the golden boy, or that the guy from the Thunder Down Under that calls into 11:30 a.m. periodically, they wonder why people.
Great call, by the way.
Why there is so much support for the quarterback of the Detroit Lions if you're serious about winning. And I can understand what this means. I can understand what they're trying to do. But do you believe in it? Do you believe that Martha Ford is sitting up there and just looking over the organization and is going, if we don't win this year, it's done for Quinn and Patricia. They're out of here. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. Because
I don't think that's how the scenario works either.
Exactly.
But would you say this? Because I think she has a little bit of an attitude about her, and I think she does.
She got swag.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but I think she demands more, and you can see that in the moves that she's made. Right?
What moves are they referencing here?
I mean, look, she's come in and they started off 1-7, and instantly Martin Mayhew was fired. Tom Lawand was fired. She started cleaning house instantly. Now, I think her big issue is she falls in love with certain guys. Like, she fell in love with Jim Caldwell. That was her dude. Like, she was booed up with him. Like, that's my man. I love Jim Caldwell. I mean, there's an audio drop of that that just circulates and is just grating on every Lions fan's nerves, right? And that's an issue. But they went out, they hired Bob Quinn. So you get a new face, new blood. And whether or not you believe Bob Quinn is good at his job or Bob Quinn's going to be good at his job, it remains to be seen, right? Bob Quinn has a vision for this team. And whether you agree with the vision or not, the Lions are going to ride or die with Bob Quinn. And Bob Quinn's guy is Matt Patricia. And whether you believe Matt Patricia knows what the hell he's doing or not, this organization will sink or swim with him. Now, me and you both agree that Matt Stafford needs to be held to a higher standard. Matt Stafford really needs to show something. He hasn't done anything here. Nothing of note. Cool. You have a 5,000-yard season. Awesome, dude. That year, what was it? I think 4 other quarterbacks had 5,000-yard seasons. It was absolutely insane. You had no running game. Now, the way this organization is going to be run, I think going forward, is they're going to try to limit what Matt Stafford does. It's going to be a very run-heavy team, which is fine. The league is going to a very pass-heavy scheme. Everybody that made it to the playoffs last season was very pass-orientated, but the Lions want to rewrite history and want to do things differently because we're going to step back into that 86 DeLorean or the 89 DeLorean, and we're going to go back to the future, and we're going to try to run the ball a whole bunch because, I don't know, we're the Detroit Lions. It's what we do. Everything's a day late and $1 short around here. But all that being said, I think she has a little bit more gusto than William Clay Ford does. I think she has a little bit more in her, and I think it's more of an attitude about her. I don't know if she settles for less than what William Clay Ford did, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if she has a higher standard, but I think there is something different about the way she manages and the way she runs this team and the way she operates things. You know, she has come in and everybody's on a much shorter leash. She makes decisions much more quickly and she's much more decisive. And I think that's a good thing. That's what you want from an owner. You don't want an owner to let a guy like Matt Millen run your organization for 8 or 9 years and just drive it into the ground and push a good, hard-paying fan like yourself, like Kenny, away. Kenny's no longer a Lions fan.
Doesn't even support the team.
He doesn't. I think Denver's his team. Denver. Of all teams, Denver. Freaking weird, man. Denver? Whatever. That's his squad, though. He no longer associates with the Detroit Lions. Like, there is a former Kenny who was a Lions fan. New Kenny doesn't even know old Kenny and doesn't even acknowledge he existed.
But the Lions are lucky in that there's 65,000 people that want to see the team every single week when they play.
It's a complete and utter sickness. I'm a Lions fan. It's a sickness. There is something wrong with me. I let this team impact and affect everything that goes on my Sundays. I would show up to go play hockey after a Lions game, and depending on how the team did, would really impact how I played. I might kill you, and I might be kicked out of the game in the first period because they played like absolute dog shit. Or I might score 3 goals, have 2 assists, maybe get a penalty, maybe cause a little bit of a ruckus, and have the game of my life because they played out of their mind. That's really messed up. That is messed up that I let a team like that impact my entire day. I've told this story before. The Detroit Lions would have such a bad game on a Sunday, it would spill over into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was finally starting to put the pieces together. Wednesday. This team just sucked up an entire Sunday afternoon, an entire Monday, an entire Tuesday, and ate into my Wednesday. 4 days of my life consumed by one team. That's screwed up. That's a disease. That's a sickness. So yeah, I get it with the 65,000 other people who fill Ford Field. I understand. I totally get it. But that's what it is. That's what Lions fans are.
If Rod Wood is serious, that Martha Ford isn't patient, so then should we assume that if Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia this season don't get the Lions into the playoffs, they should be fired? This season. Is the expectation playoffs or bust?
Do you believe they're going to be fired this season? I don't believe that.
That's why my hypothesis is that it's lip service. They know that people want a passion. They want a sense of urgency.
Look, you just hired a head coach.
NFL, not for long, bro.
I get it, but head
9-7.
Head coach, okay. Would you say the Arizona Cardinals are a good franchise?
No.
Okay. Would you say that the New York Jets are a good franchise?
They are not.
Okay. Both those franchises hired head coaches last year and turned around and cleaned house a year later. It doesn't work like that. You have to give a head coach a little bit of time to instill what he needs to instill. So, no, I don't think you're going to blow out Matty Patty, and no, I don't think you're going to fire Quinn.
Then you're not serious.
But no, I don't think. I think you can have it both ways. Okay,
I'm not patient, but then 2 years not in the playoffs with this regime.
No. Okay, look, if Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn come in this year, right? And I love how Lions just take over talk. I love it because this was supposed to be just a throwaway topic, and I see what you did here. All right, we're going to talk about this for fucking 40 minutes. We're not even going to get to Cabrera today. All right, but look, if they come out and they go 3-13, if they go 3-13, that's unacceptable, and they should be on the hot seat, and there should be discussions about them losing their jobs. There should be. And they should probably lose their jobs at 3-13. But if they come back and they show improvement, and this team looks like it's headed in the right directions, and it looks like that this organization has an identity, because I think that's the one thing that you and I both have had issues with this team is they don't have an identity. There's no identity. And you're a very good show host for being able to do this and to be able to turn this around. And I don't think everybody realized what you did. I do. I don't think everybody realized what you did there, though. You basically put me in a corner and you forced me to side with the Lions, which bravo to you, all right? Here's the thing. If this team comes out and they lay an absolute egg, yes, Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia should probably be fired. Do I think they'll be fired? Probably not. Because, again, good teams have to set up, in this case, some type of legitimacy. They have to have you got to build a culture. And I hate that term. We got to build a winning culture. Cool. You know what builds a winning culture? Winning. I mean, it sounds simple, but that's the answer. What builds a winning culture? Winning does. So if you're losing, if 9-7 isn't good enough, because Jim Caldwell, go back, look at what he did. Jim Caldwell built a winning culture here. Whether you liked him or not, whether you couldn't stand some of that pass back and forth kind of thing, or the Dungeon of Doom, or all the things that Jim Caldwell gave you, he gave you a winning culture. You were winning games. You were making it to the playoffs. You didn't do very good in the playoffs, but you were winning games. Jim Caldwell had a winning culture. And then for Bob Quinn to turn around and be like, look, 9-7 is not good enough. Cool, but my best friend's going to turn around and give us 6-10. Wait, what? That's not good enough. If 9-7 is not good enough, and I'm no math expert, believe me, I'm no math expert. You can go pull my records when I went to Wayne State. None of my math classes, none of what I did said that I was a math expert. My aunt, Anne-Marie, she had to stay up nights and tutor me for business math because I was a dummy when it comes to math. But don't worry, I got that A+ in that math class, all right? I passed it. I did a good job. I only failed pre-algebra 3 times. Whatever.
But see,
here's the deal. No, but here's the thing, all right? Here's the thing. You can't turn around and say, look, 9 and 7 is not good enough, but 6 and 10 is. You can't. So if this team this year, this season, that's why this season's so important for this organization, if they turn around and they give you 6 and 10 again, BS. That's not good enough. And yeah, both those dudes need to be on the hot seat, and yeah, something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. But if they come out and they win 8 games, they win 9 games, and now you're at 9 and 7, and the product on the field, use your eyeballs. If the product on the field says it's a dumpster fire, let that tell you what is going on with this organization. Because there are times where this team has won games, and we have turned around and looked at them and like, man, this team does not look good. I know what the record says, and you are what your record says you are, but this team does not look good. I mean, those are fluky wins. How did they eke that out? All right, cool. We're going to take it, but how did they eke that out? Let your eyeballs tell you what this team is worth. You know? Hey, cool. You're a 9 and 7, but you're a sloppy 9 and 7. You know? So if they're a sloppy 9 and 7, let your eyeballs do the talking, man. Come on.
Rod Wood put this on Martha Ford because he doesn't have to come out and say that. He could say, look, we've had a history that's been a struggle. We understand that, but now we got the organization in place, and sometimes it takes time, but we believe that with some patience, we believe that this organization can get it done. That's all he's got to say. But now he put the onus on, and he said that Martha Ford's different. She's not going to tolerate this. And so he did that by saying that, and I think that's a mistake because now a podcaster like me can say, okay, then you got to live up to your word. If Bob Quinn in his 4th year, because he's now had 4 drafts to help this team get to the playoffs and get a win, if he doesn't have the opportunity or the gumption to do it, then now people then can call you on it and say, look, no, you are not accountable, and Martha Ford is just giving us lip service. He's the one that put it out there. You know, he could have answered it way differently, and I think that by making these comments, Rod Wood actually made a similar mistake that Bob Quinn made when he said that 9 and 7 isn't good enough. We all know it, that in essence, right now, this season 2019 is massive. Bob Quinn now has had 4 draft classes, and you have your franchise quarterback. You have a guy in Kerryon Johnson. You have your wide receiver in Kenny Galladay. It doesn't get a whole heck of a lot better than this other than just drafting a lot higher and getting talent. You have to make do with what you have. And if he doesn't, then the parts are the problem, and the people that are picking the team are the problem. So if Rod Wood is serious, then the answer has to be yes. If the Lions don't make the playoffs, then there has to be accountability. And unfortunately, the guy that's going to get screwed in this scenario is Matt Patricia. Only gets 2 years. But in the NFL, sometimes you only get 1, as evidenced by the Arizona Cardinals, who pulled the trigger right after 1 year. And they said, we think that Kingsbury and his amazing family come into town and are going to handle business.
Kingsbury's such a good name. Mm-hmm. It sounds so knightly. Yeah. It really does. It sounds like you come from some long lineage of just guys who have their shit together.
Yep.
It's amazing.
So
should have got them.
And so game one, I don't want to see Kyler Murray destroy Matt Patricia's defense.
How awesome would that be?
Start the year off with the destruction.
Oh my God. You know how the Lions fans will lose their shit.
Oh, man.
2 rookie quarterbacks come in
back-to-back
seasons
and handle business.
Eat you alive.
See, a good organization, game 1, you could expect the Lions to win. But we all know that there's a little bit of doubt that game 1, the Lions can actually go out and execute, and Kyler Murray might look like a stud. So that's where we're at. We can't even expect and have that hope that the Detroit Lions are going to go out there game 1 and destroy a rookie quarterback. That's where we're at with the Detroit Lions, and that's unfortunate. But I do think Rod Wood's comments really hindered the process, and I don't think he needed to make those comments because now we're going to hold him accountable. Martha Ford's not patient, neither are any of the fans, and we here at the podcast applaud that fan that said and put it right to him. Why is it that there's been such a big struggle to put together a winning culture with the Detroit Lions? Applause to you for asking the toughest question that needed to be asked, and I'm proud of him. Good question.
Yeah, no, it's a solid question.
Amazing question.
I don't understand why our media doesn't hold them more accountable. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't mean, because I'm part of the media, right? And you're part of the media, whether you realize it or not, you're part of the media. And I don't say that to be backhanded, because I think guys like Jeff Rieger do a phenomenal job, right?
Because
I think,
you can only ask the same question so many times,
the thing.
and you're going to get blown off anyway by a professional.
The problem is the guys in the room who are doing the answering of the question.
They know what to say.
They know what to say, but it's the source. It's where the question is coming from. I asked a question last season. I got a look, and I got basically told to go sit down. Okay, cool. And then after that, it quickly moves on. And believe me, guys, everybody who's at the front, who's behind that podium,
they're firing off questions.
They know. They all looked at me like I was the biggest asshat in the room, and you can tell. You're like, okay, cool. Take notes. Who's that clown? All right, no more questions for him. And they move on. And they like who they like. And certain guys get to ask a myriad of questions because they like the questions that could get asked.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's how it is. There is a way things get done, guys. There's a things way just honestly. That fan, I applaud him. Good job.
Question. All right, let's take our first break, and we'll come back and we'll address the news as well regarding Ken Holland and Miguel Cabrera to finish off this podcast. Doc and Jock here for the Motor City Pawn Brokers. The Motor City Pawn Brokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. To check out all the things that are available for sale at the Motor City Pawn Brokers, go online and visit MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. The crew is really trying to change the stigma of pawn shops as being the seedy place. Go in there, check them out. The Motor City Pawn Brokers guarantee great customer service, and they really want to build a great customer base, and that's how they've built this great family business. Go check out MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. And cause another great sponsor is the Flick application. It's really great right now what we're doing with the podcast game in terms of building engagement and listenership. But another way that we can keep the conversation going, if you agree with what we're saying regarding Rod Wood, are we crazy? Are we being way too negative? Do you think that Bob Quinn should have an unlimited amount of time because he did indeed come from a winning organization? Then definitely sign up for the Flick application.
The Patriot way, baby.
Detroit's newest sports headquarters. At this time, it's invite only, but you can find the link anywhere online via our social media platform. All you got to do is go to our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast and find the invite link. Sign up. It takes literally moments. And then you can be in and be part of Detroit's newest sports headquarters. We have topics. If you're a fan of wrestling, we break down Raw, SmackDown, and all the news of the day. If you hear a topic on the radio or here on the podcast, on Doc and Jock, or any of the new podcasts that you're hearing on our platform, you can engage. You can find out when the shows are airing. It's a great and easy application. Literally, I can create a topic within seconds, and we can have a great sports debate, not only online on our Twitter page, but also via the Flick application. So become part of Detroit Sports' newest headquarters. Join the newest Detroit sports community via Flick.
I wish you guys could be in the room for all this. I'm over here having a diabetic issues. Look like I'm running marathons. I'm sweating my butt off over here, towel drying myself down. John's over there trying to figure out what button to push. Oh, man, I love this podcast. I do. I came in here ready to friggin' burn a village down. I was ready to choke slam some broad through a table. Now I just kind of want to punt a baby a little bit. You know? Maybe not punch him square in the face, but just kind of punt the baby across the room. This is why this podcast is good. This is why you're really good at your job. Like in real life, there's a reason he's called the Doc, right? There's a reason. He's basically going to help you not want to do the thing to yourself.
Exactly.
So good job on you, because I came in here, I was all fired up. On a scale of 1 to 10, I was at like a 97. Like I said, I was ready to burn a village down. Now I'm only at like 47.
That's not bad. Exactly.
No, not a 6, man. I'm still pissed off. I'm still angry. I'm just not where I once was. That's all. So good on you. Good on you. I love you. Good on you.
Does Steve Yzerman taking full control of the Red Wings make you all warm and tingly inside?
Yeah.
Ken Holland is gone, baby. And the Red Wings tried to orchestrate a ruse, but everybody saw that, okay, Ken Holland's not going to just be like, oh, you know what? I'm doing a great job. I'm the general manager. I'm running things. Let me just go bring in somebody to take my job. That's unheard of unless, you were kind of broomed out. Everyone knew it, but you just don't you feel bad for the guy. You don't just want to call him out and be like, so basically you were replaced by the newest, hottest model, huh? And that press conference with Holland and Steve Yzerman. Now, that press conference with Holland and Yzerman was a ruse. It was a sham, and everybody knew it, but you wanted to really be happy that Steve Yzerman was in the room. But at the same time, how do you properly show respect and reverence for Ken Holland? We just ignored him, didn't ask him any questions. That's what happened. But he did reveal that, hey, he knew the writing was on the wall when Steve Yzerman stepped down. He's not stupid. He knew that, okay, everybody in Detroit wants him back. Chris Ilitch wants him back. So Ken Holland, obviously, when you take a job literally 2 weeks after getting quote-unquote promoted, you weren't happy that you left your position of well over 2 decades. And it's unfortunate for Ken Holland in terms of having to leave the organization you worked for, but unfortunately, you're still employed. You're still working for the NHL. You're just not working with Edmonton. And good luck to Ken Holland. I do think Red Wing fans are happy that Ken Holland is gone, but I want to ask you, what's the fairest way now that he's gone to view the tenure of Ken Holland?
It's a tough question because Ken Holland gets credited with bringing, 4 Stanley Cups here?
3 as general manager, yes.
That's tough. It really is, because if you really look at the hand that he had in bringing those cups here, it's a lot less than that. It really is. That one in 96 or 97, the 97-98 Stanley Cups, because he took over in 96. He didn't really do a whole lot. He just kind of stepped in. He was the dude who was behind the driver's seat, and essentially he was throwing the keys to a Lamborghini, and they were like, look, don't crash this. I mean, those were Scotty Bowman Stanley Cups. He set that up. He set that organization up. And then Ken Holland comes in, and he's kind of the face of the whole deal, but he didn't have to do a bunch, right? I think you can make the case, and I think you can make the argument that the 2008 Stanley Cup was the one that he won. 2002, go back and look at that team. Good God, man. You couldn't win a Stanley Cup with that team?
Okay, let's give the facts here.
What are you doing wrong?
Let's get the facts right
here. It's all a checkbook.
Let's get the facts straight here first in terms of the accolades and the proper accolades we should give Ken Holland. 97's Cup, he was the assistant general manager. He was the general manager 3 times when the Detroit Red Wings won the Stanley Cup in 98, 2002, and 2008, with a finals loss in 2009. With Detroit, here is the success level that the Wings experienced and what they won. They won the Central Division 10 times, the regular season conference title 5 times, the President's Trophy 4 times, and the Stanley Cup 3 times. Has won more regular season games, 789, and postseason games, 118, than any other NHL team. So there is a certain level of a resume there, and I think that's why he was gobbled up super quick by Edmonton, who hasn't been in the postseason now, I think 12 out of 13 seasons. So he was gobbled up quick. He is widely regarded as a decent general manager, but I do think it has to be a fair assessment, meaning that Ken Holland did good things. He also did good things in the rebuild by trading away Thomas Tatar, getting some additional picks, and the caveat that we all have to ask and really assess is, and I wonder if Ken Holland will maybe let it leak a little bit, was the directive of Chris Ilitch, his boss, hey, make the playoffs no matter what, and Mike Ilitch, was a directive, hey, you know what, let's keep this streak going, it's at 19 years, 20 years, 21 years, let's keep these extra gates coming in because it'll allow us to have a lot more money coming in. Was he allowed to rebuild the team? That'll be an interesting, debatable point that he can maybe hopefully reveal later on down the road. But when he was the general manager, he made moves, and in terms of some of the draft picks that he made, that were not the best for the Detroit Red Wings. And I think the one I heard earlier today was he passed on Kucherov twice in the second round when he had a chance to draft him. And I was like, really? We could have had Kucherov here on the Red Wings? There were opportunities when you say, why are guys like Vanek and Mike Green and veterans taking up a significant amount of time when you had these guys in the minors when you had guys like Athanasiou, you had guys like Mantha in the minors maybe just a little too long. So those are the biggest complaints, is that maybe some of the draft picks were big whiffs. I know a lot of people point to the Franzen signing. They believe that the rebuild was started way too late, and in the salary cap era, the contracts that were given later on, most notably to Abdelkader, Helm, and Franz Nielsen, those contracts are on the books. They're on the record. So that's why I said on Twitter, when I asked via our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, what's the fairest grade to give? I think it's not a D. It's not an F. It's not a C. I think the fairest grade, where you give respect to the accomplishments that he had, and then also to account for the bad contracts that he did sign, the mistakes, the fairest grade is a B-. It has to be in the neighborhood of a B. It can't be an A, because of the fact that the Red Wings right now are in a tough situation, 3 years not in the postseason. So any combination of B-, B, B+, fair in my book. I think that's what the fans should recognize, is Ken Holland did have successes, but he also had epic failures. He made a lot of mistakes, and the Red Wings are stuck right now having to deal with it. And Yzerman coming in with the new assistant general manager, Pat Verbeek, they got a tough task, because they got to get rid of some of these players. They got to get rid of some of these vets, and they have to actually start the process of what we call really bottoming out by letting go of some of these guys and maybe trying to figure out a creative way to maybe even trade Justin Abdelkader, Helm, and start the process of retooling the Red Wings.
I think you're a little bit too easy on him. I really do. You have to realize, when he took over as general manager, all the hard work was done for him. He just didn't have to screw it up.
He was part of the staff, though. He was assistant general manager. He was talking.
Okay, cool.
He was giving influence.
So good job on not screwing it up, right? And then once he was given the keys to the Cadillac, what did he really do?
98, 02, and 2008. 3 cups. He's on record as winning those cups as the general manager.
Cool. As your title. All right. Great. The one in 2002, you basically had an all-star team.
Yeah, you had to get those guys here.
You had an open checkbook. You outsigned, or you outpaid everybody. That's what that was. All right. You go to 2008. I think that's the one Stanley Cup where you can say, yeah, you won that. You won that one. I think he did a great job that year. All right. And then after that, what really happened? He gave away great players trying to keep that stupid-ass playoff streak alive. And you're right, that might have been a directive from up top. Might have been. But you gave away so much talent for guys like Ian Cole.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A guy who got checked too hard, and now he's essentially a vegetable. And I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, but it's what it is.
The Weiss contract is abysmal as well.
Exactly. So you're right. For everything good that he did, there's a bunch of bad that kind of that just kind of offsets it. I don't want to say outweighs it, just kind of offsets it. When he came in,
are you in the C range?
When he came in, it was all done for him. It was all done for him. And there was a couple years there where he had to just kind of do some stuff and not screw it up. And then all of a sudden, it was like, all right, cool. Now the training wheels are off. Go do this. And he won a Stanley Cup. But after that, it's been a complete shit show. The last 10 years have been absolutely brutal, John. Absolutely brutal. It's been awful.
I can understand that you value the negativity a little bit more than the positivity, but I just equal it out. I say, he was equal parts good, equal parts bad.
Okay, so if it's equal parts, then he's average. So he's a C. So he's a C. He in my book, and it's not like it's a C plus. It's like a C minus. It really is, because he has done so many questionable things. Look at some of these contracts. Look at Abdelkader's contract. I remember when Abdelkader was signed, I wanted to run my car off a cliff. I was like, who gets a deal like that? I was like, he's Justin freaking Abdelkader. He's a guy who, on a really good team, he's maybe your third or he's your fourth line winger. He's a guy who can kind of score a little bit. He's a gritty guy. That's what he is. That's what he is. He doesn't deserve a contract like he has. How many guys have no trade clauses? Why? Why are you so special? Why are you so special and yet this team sucks so bad? Tell me. Doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. A guy like Jimmy Howard. Jimmy Howard's contract was another one where I was like, what the hell? Do you realize he is basically playing on your and my groin? He had to go borrow them because his are gone. They're just broken. They're laying in a bin somewhere, and it says do not ever use because these don't work at all. Now he's brought back on another deal? Okay, cool, bro. Do you know why? Because he couldn't draft a goaltender. He hasn't been able to find a goaltender. Jared Crow was supposed to be your dude, and he's not good. So you're right. He did some really good things early, but has he struggled lately. He has fizzled. The last 10 years have been awful. So I don't know. You said what? 97 he took over, 98 he took over as the full-time general manager. So 98 to 2019, we'll say was good. And honestly, the way I feel, half of that he had to actually work. The other half was done for him because Scotty Bowman was a G. Scotty Bowman was a. You guys have to go back and just look at the way that team was constructed. Scotty Bowman and Jimmy DeVolano did so much heavy lifting, just putting pieces together, and then just like, okay, cool, don't fuck it up. Just don't let it fall apart. You go back to that 2002 team. So basically, after 2002, when Scotty Bowman retired, right? Scotty Bowman was like, all right, I'm good. He ends up staying on as a consultant for a few years, and then he goes to Chicago because his son's there. And look at what happened to Chicago. I think it was like 2005. He ends up leaving. 2004 maybe. He ends up leaving, going to Chicago, and that's when the decline of the Red Wings really picked up, And you had enough left in the tank to where you kind of limped. You limped this Cadillac that essentially had a flat tire in the rear and was running on low oil through the 2008 Stanley Cup, and you got back in 2009, and then after that, honestly, it was a dumpster fire. It was like driving a Pinto around. So, yeah, C- all day. I just talked myself into a C-.
Now that Steve Yzerman has the reins, and he has made his first move by bringing in a colleague he's worked with
the
Tampa
little
Bay,
ball of hate, baby.
Pat Verbeek.
Little ball of hate.
Does Steve Yzerman match the resume that Ken Holland did put together? Does he win 1, 2, 3 cups? No cups? Will it end positively? Will Steve Yzerman have a fruitful venture in the working relationship in trying to bring back the Red Wings back to glory?
See, it's really hard because Ken Holland is credited with how many Stanley Cups? He won himself 3, right? But he gets credited with that 4th because he was an assistant general manager. So now you mean to tell me Steve Yzerman in a completely different
era,
of the way just the league is ran, has to somehow match 4? I don't think that's fair.
Can we start with the assumption he gets 1?
This is where I'm going with it, right? How many did Ken Holland win in this new era? He won 1. Won 1 in the salary cap era. So does Steve Yzerman match or beat Ken Holland with 1 Stanley Cup? I'm going to say he beats Ken Holland.
2.
And he wins 2.
I think so, too, as well. 1 should be the standard. 1 should be expected. 2, 3 would be amazing. But remember, he might have 20, 25 years to do it. So we will see if that opportunity presents itself. I think it's going to be a tough situation there. But who does a better job now concurrently in their roles, Yzerman or Holland?
Oh, Steve Yzerman all day.
He's going to run circles?
Yeah, I think so. So you have to understand, he's going to Edmonton. And yes, he has a generational player in Connor McDavid. The issue with Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid has been so good for so long, he doesn't take coaching well. He's one of those guys that when he came up, he's basically like, here, you're the best player on the team, so go do what you want. Instead of saying, no, you're the best player on the team, we need you to do this. He's almost like how Steve Yzerman was when Scotty Bowman came in. When Scotty Bowman came in, Steve Yzerman was the best player on his team. He was a top 5, top 10 player in the league. He was great. But Scotty Bowman said, look, I need you to do this for us to win. And Steve Yzerman said, all right, cool, and did it. Connor McDavid is in that young mindset where he's like, no, I'm best player in the league. I'm going to go do this, and you just do what you got to do around me. He's not bending for the team to make the team better. So, yes, he's got that. Now, he's got a ton of bad contracts. Milan Lucic's contract is absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. And I like Lucic, but there's no reason he should be getting paid what he's getting paid. So he's got a couple bad deals. Goaltender situation's kind of iffy. He's got a lot of work to do in Edmonton. All right. All that being said, I think the Red Wings, and this is a credit to Ken Holland, I think the Red Wings recently kind of figured out what was going on. Ken Holland figured out what was up, and I think he's done a decent job stocking this minor league system with guys. You got Philippe Zadina, who's going to come up. I think he's solid. I think we both agree Larkin took massive steps forward this year. Athanasiou is a guy I like. I think he's a very good player. I think you can build around him. Anthony Mantha, as long as he stops punching people in the head, I think he'll be a very good player. It's hard to play hockey when you've got a broken hand. I'm just saying. You were brought in here to be essentially Cam Neely. I need you to be Cam Neely, but I need you not to punch people in the head. You're too good of a player to do that. Don't do that no more. You need defense, though. You need defense and goaltending. So your forwards are solid. You just need defense and goaltending. You got to get rid of a guy like Darren Helm. You got to get rid of Abblicator's contract. You've got a lot of bad contracts that are going to hurt you. I think Steve Yzerman has the ability to do that, though. I think he has a keen sense for where the league's at, what the league is doing, and how he wants his team constructed, and I think he'll get there. I think Steve Yzerman beats Ken Holland by a landslide.
Yzerman to the cup first, baby. That's the goal. That better happen.
Yes.
Because if it turns around and Ken Holland is hoisting a Stanley Cup, that'll be one of the worst days in Detroit sports history as well. A lot of bad days lately, but if Ken Holland is a guy that...
Could you imagine Putty just losing his mind?
Speaking of Putty, he's going to host a new Red Wings podcast coming out Fridays. I'm excited for that. Good luck, Putty, with that.
Did he decide on a name? I think I was talking to him the other day. I think it was In the Crease. Is that what he's going with? No, Sinbin, right?
Nope.
No, he changed it.
Nope. We collaborated, him and I.
Oh, no.
And
me and him collaborated. It was really good.
Yeah.
You came in.
Top shelf, baby.
Oh, so that's one of the ones I told him.
Yeah, Top Shelf. It was good because it also
it was
reflects...
It was a Don Cherry reference.
Yeah, Top Shelf reflects also the ability to say, hey, he's got one of the upper echelon podcasts. He'll be on a great network, and I think he'll bring the passion and energy to it. So subscribe to the Detroit Sports Podcast on iTunes, and you can get all the great new content every single day. And I think we're a great follow on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Good stuff going on all around.
It always makes me nervous when me and Putty get together, and then Putty gets with you afterwards. I'm just like, I have no idea how this is going to go.
No, it's going to be fine. Putty will
always
let it
makes
rip.
Me nervous.
He'll let it rip. He'll do a good job because he cares, and I think
he does a real good job.
I'm surprised he didn't ask because he was like, "Oh, you guys need a Red Wing podcast. You guys need a Red Wing podcast."
His top 5 for fighting podcast is very good.
Check it out.
It's very good.
Top 5 for fighting.
I was listening to episode 8. I'm like 3 weeks behind. I was listening to episode 8 the other day, and it's like man problems.
Exactly.
Like you rolled out of bed one day, and you're like, "Oh man, I got a bump on my wiener. What is this?" It's like honestly, it's like man problems. It's great. All right, one guy had problems with DirecTV. You know how you always have problems with Dish?
Yep, he's got problems with DirecTV.
Problems with DirecTV. It was crazy.
Top 5 for fighting. Great stuff over there. And we look forward to Putty's Red Wing podcast debuting shortly, probably this week, I believe. All right, quickly, was it an overreaction to really weigh in heavily and to judge Miguel Cabrera for his comments? For me, I'm like, you know what? It's factual. I've talked about it all week, and I've said, you know what? It doesn't bother me that much because it's true. Everybody that's fair and honest will be willing to say that Miguel Cabrera is not surrounded by the best talent. But should he have said it publicly? Probably not. I don't think that it's the best thing to say when you're questioned. But I think he was trying to defend himself against those that are saying, where's the power? He only has one home run. I don't think it should have been said, but when he does come out and be honest and says, look, I'm not probably getting the pitches that I'm used to seeing when I had bigger guys like Prince Fielder, Johnny Peralta, Victor Martinez behind me, I'm not getting protected. So I'm not getting that many great pitches to hit. I'm contributing. I mean, I'm still around the 300 hitter. I'm driving in runs. So where's my power? I think that he's always used the excuse of, well, Comerica Park, early in April and May is just not the best place to hit home runs, and he truly believes that the power will come back. I don't. I think the power is truly out. I think that Miguel Cabrera is a 15 to 20 home run guy, tops. But when you're asked that question, I just think that you got to say, look, it's early in the season. I trust my skills. We're still competitive. We're around 500. I could do a better job. I don't think you go and throw your teammates under the bus, but I don't get mad at him all that much if the locker room is professional. Now, if there's a bunch of sensitive divas in that locker room that get all butthurt by stuff like that, then you're going to have problems. But I think Ron Gardenhire will do a good enough job to clean it up and will stroke everybody's ego just enough to say, look, you're in the major leagues, do your thing, keep working on this, don't worry about the outside noise, it's no big deal. I think these guys will go right up to Miggy and say, yo, what's this talk all about? And he'll just be like, you know what, this is what I said, and he'll own it, and they'll keep it moving. I don't think this, by what he said, will break up the Tigers clubhouse.
I don't think it's going to break up the Tigers clubhouse. It just
not much there, right?
Right. My issue is there are a ton of guys in the league who are still getting it done with not very good guys behind him. You're getting older. You're breaking down. You haven't been healthy in like 5 years. So you want to blame that on your teammates? Come on, man. This is you. You have one home run. You have one home run. You do. This is the guy who could turn on any fastball in the league. You're slow to everything right now. You're older. You're breaking down. You don't necessarily take care of your body the best, okay? Do you remember when Miguel Cabrera, when he was going to play third base again? Remember how he came in, how he looked so lean? He was cut up. He looked great. I was working out at LA Fitness, and I seen him at LA Fitness. And he was amazing. I was like, oh, my God, look at him. He's in freaking great shape. You're not there anymore. You now look like your everyday first baseman. Like, it's beer and hoagies for you, and okay, cool. The problem is you can't turn on a fastball anymore. So guess what? You don't have the power. You don't take care of yourself. Your body's breaking down. You're playing like shit. Don't blame it on everybody else. It's on you, man.
Own it.
You know what?
Own it, baby.
When you point a finger at Nico Goodrum because he's batting behind you, guess what? You got 3 more pointing back at you.
Because there are 90-mile-an-hour fastballs that are right down the middle that you are whiffing on.
That you're whiffing on. Come on. I mean, you're at the ballpark almost every day. You tell me. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's the guys around him. I think it's him. And yeah, cool. When you had Victor Martinez behind you, when you had Prince Fielder behind you, when you had
Johnny Peralta.
Johnny Peralta, JD Martinez, when you had those guys behind you, you were younger.
Easier, yeah.
You were in better shape. You were able to do things because of the way you took care of yourself. I blame this all on Miguel Cabrera for not taking care of himself. I mean, you got a guy like Mike Trout and Christian Yelich. Who's batting behind those guys? Honestly, take a look. They're not very good. They're not. But you know what? Those guys still lead the league in batting average. They still lead the league in runs. There's a reason. Because they're good. They take care of themselves. Ooh, being an athlete is a full-time job. It's not like when Babe Ruth was around, where Babe Ruth could go eat 8 hot dogs the night before a game and drink a whole keg of beer. It's not like that anymore. You've got to manipulate your diet. You got to work out. You got to rest. It's a whole lot that goes into it. It's absolutely crazy. It really is. That's why everybody's bigger, stronger, faster. Miguel Cabrera is just bigger, not necessarily stronger or faster.
Thank you, everybody, for spending the last hour with us. We greatly appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to have the success at the network without your fine support.
It was an hour?
Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you want to comment on anything, if you agree or disagree with anything that you heard, feel free. Give us a call, 248-579-8686. 24/7 access. You can get your thoughts across, get your voice heard worldwide. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next week for another edition of Doc and Jock. Thanks, everybody, for downloading. We appreciate it.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They count to me. They understand. They talk to me.